Football with your host, Sean Spencer and Alex Loosmore.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that's Let's Talk Football. And you see who I'm with, my guy whose team is also 4-0, host of Restoring the Roar, Alex Loosmore. What up, Alex?
Not too much, man. Excited to get into this week, talk some of these undefeated teams, and talk about one team that was way up here, and now they're kind of coming back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely came back to earth, but we'll discuss it. But we kind of saw it coming. Kind of said it was going to happen. Really quickly, before we get started, we wanted to shout out one of the members of our Let's Talk Football North Sports Dynasty NFL Edition community, Nicole Klychak. Just got married recently. So we wanted to say on behalf of all of us, congratulations. Hopefully, I know that wedding was amazing. I know you guys are on vacation in Mexico now. So hey, hopefully you guys have a great time.
Of course, she brought that microphone with her and reported. Yep. Oh, it was awesome. That was great.
I love it. I'm telling you, man, she's gonna be the on the scene reporter. I'm telling you.
Yes.
What is going on, Alex? Look, he said he was on the right side of the cleanser finally. Hey, come on.
Yeah.
Yo, but look, let's get into it. College football storylines. Alex, there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to obviously talk about a lot of it. But we want to touch on something we've been talking about a lot this year. Colorado. Alex, we've seen how they've done. They surprised a lot of people with that 3-0 start, but we always knew the other shoe was going to fall. And last 2 weeks, it's gotten better, but still back-to-back losses. Where do they go from here?
I mean, for me, this goes right into the path that I expected for them because, I mean, I was one of the people that was surprised they kept it that close with USC. I know it got ugly early, but for them to bounce back and have that being a one-score game at the end, that is major props to them. Hats off to Dion for what he's doing with those guys. But, I mean, you look at the schedule the rest of the way. Who do they play? They got Arizona State this week. That's a get-right game. Mm-hmm. Then you host Stanford. Then you have a bye before going to UCLA, which is going to be a tough game.
Oh yeah.
That's one where it's kind of like who's just outside that top 5, maybe 6 in the Pac-12 right now, with USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Oregon State, and now Washington State. Mm-hmm. Who's kind of that next one?
Oh yeah.
It's those two teams up for debate right now, so that's going to be a really fun game. Then after that, they host Oregon State. That is a tough game. That's 2 tough games back-to-back before hosting Arizona, going to Washington State, and then to Utah to end the year. So a tough 2-game slide, kind of easy couple games, then tough 2-game slide, then an easy year game, and then a tough 2-game slide. So they'll be right around that 6, 7, maybe 8 wins if one of those extra games goes their way. But it's right around that bowl eligibility borderline that we said at the beginning of the year. It's just they've looked really impressive in the games outside of Oregon.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and going back to this one, like we got to give them credit because, like you said, when I saw the score start going up, and all of a sudden it's 21. And USC is just balling out. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. But I got to give it to Colorado. I got to give it to Shedeur Sanders. Those guys never quit. They never quit. Double digits in the second, third, and fourth quarter to the point where at the end of the game, Alex, I mean, I was thinking, maybe is this Colorado State all over again? Are we going to see some magic? Because
I was too.
Just like Alex said, that Swiss cheese defense.
like we said going into the game, was if they can figure out how to control USC's defensive line, because they don't blitz often, but they get the most pressure with just their down linemen in the nation. They're number one at that. So we said going in, if they can control that defensive line or kind of limit that pressure on Shedeur, they're going to have a chance, and they struggled with that early. But then you could see that offensive line kind of started to get into a rhythm once they started to be able to run the ball a bit more. Then USC couldn't pin their ears back as much. And then Shedeur got comfortable. He got rolling. The receivers had the short catches, long gains. They really went into that catch and run attack, and it really worked for them.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, they show me that resilience. They figured out a way to get it done. They kept themselves in this ball game. And if anything, this is definitely going to give them that confidence going forward. We have to remember Travis didn't play this game.
No, he still didn't play.
Yeah. So we have to remember that this is a top-tier offense without their and Colorado didn't have their best guy. So once they get him back, obviously you're going to still have to get him back up to game speed. But that talent, and his football IQ will have him settle in fairly quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we will definitely Ben said Colorado will end up 7-5 or 6-6 at worst.
Yeah.
They will beat both Arizona teams and Stanford for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then I guess that goes back to the question I asked before the season, Alex. We did not expect them to have the start that they did. These last two games we did expect. If he gets them to a 7-5 or shoot, even maybe a potentially 8-4, shock somebody, do we maybe push for him to get in that coach of the year conversation?
Oh, I think he'll absolutely be in that conversation. You make an argument for him to be a finalist.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the idea of rewarding somebody coach of the year for like barely over 500 when you look at it that way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, when you also look at what the turnover has been from 1-11 to this, and to go essentially almost beat USC, to beat the runner-up from last year's national championship game.
Yes.
To go beat Nebraska. There's some tough game. Well, there's some games that we didn't expect to go their way. Mm-hmm. That went their way, or just about went their way, that I think could work in his favor. Plus the popularity behind him and everything with that.
That's the other part. They're going to give him a push because it's prime time. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And shout out to him. Good for him. He's got those boys playing, and we're going to see down the line. Let's see what happens, man. See if they can shock the world. Colin says, just goes to show that they don't need all that extra. Just play like they know they can. Leave out the stuff for the cameras. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, we saw what happened when they were talking the smack and stomping on the O at Oregon. A real team took it personal, and we see. What do you say? Cameras have already been there. Right. We don't need all that extra attention. We don't need it. Yo, so let's move on. I see Alec here in the comments. And hey, Alex is one of the people that brought this up on Saturday. We want to know, there is a number of teams that are still undefeated. Most teams have played 5 games. Some have just played 4. And a number of these teams are undefeated. We want to know which team is a fraud and who is for real. I sent a list to Alex before the show. I'm going to list off some of the ones that are less known. Marshall is 4-0. JMU undefeated at 5-0. Liberty is 4-0. Fresno State, Air Force, Maryland, Louisville, and Missouri all are 5-0. Then you start coming into that higher into the top 25 with UNC, Kentucky, Washington State, Florida State, Penn State, and Miami. Then obviously higher in the top 10, USC, Oklahoma, Washington, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Michigan, and Ohio State. First, let's start with those teams that are in the top 25. How many of them are for real, and how many of them are a product of maybe the conference?
The ones outside?
Yeah, outside
Is
the
that what
top
you said?
25. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with, to me, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week. The schedule Louisville's had, I don't.
Yeah.
They're not a real undefeated team. And it's tough to say, like, Liberty, Marshall, JMU, some of those teams, we've seen them play high-level football, but we haven't necessarily seen it against high-level competition.
Yes.
So I think for those teams, once they get deeper into conference play, like for Marshall, JMU, those teams, when the Sun Belt has some really good football. So I think once they get deeper into that conference schedule, we'll be able to see more who's real and who's not there. I think Fresno State's legit. I really do. They went to Purdue, beat them. I think they're legit. Air Force, it's hard to say. Maryland, I mean, I've been pretty clear all off season going into the season how I feel about Maryland. They are legit, in my opinion. Missouri's showing they're legit. They've handled their business. They played very well. They to me, they are absolutely legit.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking at it. Air Force, I want to go back to them because they have, actually been blowing out some of these teams. We know San Jose State, they only has one win, but they were able to put up 45 on them. And then San Diego State, they put 49 on them, and we saw what that defense can do when it gets clicking.
Yeah.
So I'm very impressed by that, but I do want you to watch Air Force because they are going to be playing Wyoming this coming week, and Wyoming only has that one loss to Texas, and they went toe-to-toe with Texas all the way throughout that game. So, yeah, I'm with you on most of that. JMU definitely have a soft spot for them because they're only 2 hours away from me, and shoot, so is Liberty. To see both those teams be undefeated, they've been able to play. The last couple of years, we've seen what they do. Missouri, that's one that I'm 100% behind. I'm hoping they can keep it going through the SEC, through that tough schedule. But you got a guy in quarterback who's Brady Cook that is starting to find himself. He has his major weapon in Luther Burden. That team, and I know our guy Scott's going to be excited to hear this, but I'm serious, man. That Missouri, there's a team that some of these SEC teams need to watch out for, man, because they play good football.
Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy. So let's keep going down the list. We talked about, at the Missouri. Let's go down. We have my team, North Carolina. We have Kentucky that's got a major game coming up this week. Washington State got the upset over Oregon State. And Cam Ward, man, we need to start paying attention to that. No interceptions, 13 picks over 1,400 yards. This guy is the truth.
Yeah, he is the main reason they're undefeated and the main reason they're legit. I'm thoroughly impressed by them this year. And let's see how long they can keep it up.
Yeah. Let's see if they can keep this thing going. But as we get closer down into this top 25, I see what Misador said in there. So let's start talking about some of these teams.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you guys, Georgia. Let's talk about some of these teams that might have had an easier schedule early, but they're still for real, right?
See, our schedule is extremely backloaded. Our last 3 weeks are at Penn State. I believe we go to Maryland, and then we host Ohio State. Yeah. And there's no bye week in there. That's back to back to back. So, yes, our schedule, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Our schedule was so easy to start. But, I mean, there aren't many teams that I would put above us right now just on our depth and how we match up with most teams in the country.
Yeah. And look, hell no. All right.
Misador, show me.
You also,
if he can show me a 3-game stretch tougher than that 3-game stretch I just listed, then I'll have this discussion with him.
Now we'll
Balls
show
in your court,
respect.
Misador.
All right, we'll show you respect at Florida State. We know you were able to get Clemson, although we all know Clemson was struggling this year. Boston College gave you everything you can handle. You smoked Southern Miss and LSU.
That wins.
I mean, we know what they're supposed to be, but let's be honest, they haven't necessarily lived up. Yeah. So you got those 4 wins, but what are we talking about now? Come on.
We'll have to wait and see. I'm thinking we'll win all 3, but if we lose one, I'd pin it on the Penn State game.
Now let's go right into this, because this is Colin talking about, is that weaker than Georgia? Hey, UT Martin, we've seen that. Ball State, we've seen this. They had trouble against South Carolina. This past week, Auburn, Peyton Thornton played the game of his life. Never seen him play that well. I've never seen him play that well. I watched a lot of him. So do we give them? I mean, it's the same thing, right? I mean, they've had 2 actually tough games that they've managed to get the W in, but at the same time, they were sweating. I know they were sweating.
Yeah. Now, if you're saying the weaker than UGA one, our schedule so far has been weaker than theirs, but our end's tougher than theirs. The Auburn and the South Carolina game, Subby Sidorson do his comment there. I don't know that he'd want to jump to that, but we'll see.
That's rough.
Yeah, but I think part of it too is, like we've said the last couple weeks, when you're the top dog, when you're the top team, every team is coming at you with their best shot.
Right.
So it's tough to say, because Georgia's a much better team than either of those 2 teams, but they didn't play like it. I don't know if they were overlooking them, or if it's just they're not fully comfortable with the offense yet, or enough players aren't confident in their roles yet. I don't know what the situation is, but they're going to trip up if they keep this up. If Milton and Tennessee play as well as they did this past week, they could catch them. Missouri could catch them. Whoever comes out of that SEC West right now could catch them.
Look, and to be quite honest, I don't think we got to go much farther than this week right here. Kentucky can catch them. You know, Leary hasn't been the strongest, but we saw what Ray Davis did in that last game, putting up over 200 yards. So, you know,
he was
if you can hold right, if you can keep that offense off the field, keep Georgia's offense off the field, and have a steady running game, watch out, man. Watch out. So it's all doable. It's all doable. Yeah. So look. So there again, like we said, there are a number of teams. Let's look real quick into the Pac-12. You got Oregon, you got Washington, USC, Washington State. Those 4 are still undefeated. Who lasts longer as an undefeated team?
When do Washington and Oregon play? Because that'll change my answer. To me, those are. I know USC is undefeated and everything. Oregon and Washington are far and away the 2 best teams in this conference right now. Those 2 are so impressive. They're so well-rounded, what they can do offensively and defensively, and they can beat you with the run and the pass. Oh yeah. Of course. Oregon and Washington play next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also USC plays Notre Dame.
Ooh. Okay.
I think Washington State and whoever wins that Oregon-Washington game will be the last 2 teams undefeated in the Pac-12. And then Washington State plays Oregon the next week. So by week 8, we could be down to 1 undefeated team in the Pac-12. My pick right now is Washington. To me,
lasting the longest.
That's the scariest team in the country right now.
Yep.
That passing attack, Braylon Trice, a physical defense, and Michael Penix is probably playing better football than any quarterback in the country right now.
He's putting up big numbers. So, hey, I like that pick. I'm partial to Washington State. They might not have all the extra pieces, but that passing attack by Cameron Ward is looking elite right now, and I'm loving it. But again, they're going to have to, in 3 weeks, they are going to be one of the teams that has to play Oregon. And obviously they got Washington down the line. So it's going to be some tests they're going to have to face, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, buddy. Yo, we're gonna move right along here. It's just a quick show. And we're gonna go with we missed last week, so we want to give our game ball for last week as well as this past week. So here we are, game balls. First, we're going for week 4. Week 4, that was 2 weeks ago. Game ball. I'll start. Mine is Brendan Rice. Jerry Rice's son, 7 receptions, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We talked about him before the season. Wanted to see if he was going to be able to show up, and he absolutely did. And it was pretty great seeing him and Shiloh go up against each other. I know you saw that post I put up, like father, like son. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Who do you have for your first game ball for week 4?
My first one is from what was supposed to be, what was the most hyped game for week 4. I'm going Bo Nix. To me, that was the clear one. 28 of 33, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 carries for 9 yards in that finishing touchdown. He was phenomenal. To almost have more touchdowns than incompletions is wild through 4 quarters of football. And he brought it to a Colorado team that was on fire, playing some good football, and just shut them down. So I had to give props to him. Phenomenal game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And my second game ball of week 4, I've been talking about him all day, and it's from that game against Oregon State. Washington State quarterback Cameron Ward, 28 of 34, 404 yards, 4 interceptions, 0 picks, and had 9 carries for 14 yards and a rushing touchdown. He was that whole team. We went into that game saying if Washington State wants to show people what they're made of, they have to get this W. They got it 38-35, and it really kind of put some spotlights on Washington State and Cam Ward. But let's see if he can keep it going. That's my game ball for week 4. Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
My other one for week 4, giving it to a guy that lost a game, but Benjamin Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
Shut down Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
They went toe-to-toe the majority of the game and made Marvin Harrison a non-factor for the majority of that game. He had 3 catches for 32 yards. That's Marvin Harrison. But most of those were not against Morrison.
Yeah.
There's so many clips of them being physical, going toe-to-toe, and McCord having to look elsewhere. I mean, you've got Ibuka had 7 receptions. Stover had 7 receptions. Those guys were getting the majority of the ball because Morrison was shadowing Harrison for the majority of the night. So to shut down far and away the best receiver in college football, you get my game ball.
Oh, absolutely. 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 All right, now we're going to move to week 5. Alex, I'm going to come back to you. Who's your first game ball of week 5?
I mean, we talked about him while we were just kind of briefly talking about this team. Ray Davis, running back from Kentucky. Heavyweight matchup against Florida. 26 carries, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He outscored Florida by himself. Averaged almost 11 yards per carry. Phenomenal game. Absolute game wrecker, and had to show him some love there.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Yo, mine, we talked about this as well. You know as well as I, you've had your eyes on this guy, but in a negative way. Peyton Thorne, the guy at transfer from Michigan State. Like I've said, we don't exaggerate when we said this guy has not played good most of the time that he's been playing collegiate football. But something happened in this game. They tailored that offense to him, and they were able to run the ball. And let me tell you something. He did the best job he did, almost pulling up an upset against the number 1 team in the country. He's only 10 of 19 for 82 yards, passing, but he had 12 carries for 92 yards, averaged almost 8 yards a carry. And for a good portion of that game, Georgia could not stop Peyton Thorne in that little QB sweep around the corner. I mean, they were getting it in.
Yeah.
But again, they didn't win the game, but what he showed, he put fear in their hearts with that running game, and I love what I saw from him. So shout out to Peyton Thorne. And what's your last one?
My last one, it's the guy we talked about specifically for this matchup. We said in that LSU Ole Miss game, it was going to have to be the Jackson Dart show, and he brought it last Saturday. 26-39, 389 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. To go along with that, 7 carries, 50 yards, and another touchdown. This guy was responsible for 5 touchdowns on the day, going toe-to-toe with Jaden Daniels, who's somebody that we have very high up in the quarterback rankings this year. And for somebody that we've also said is kind of underperformed this year, he showed up on the biggest stage for them this year when the lights were the brightest and took care of LSU to save their season.
Definitely save their season. I can dig it. Yo, and for my last one, this is a guy that, again, we talked about. Shout out to Missouri doing their thing. Got to go Luther Burden III, 11 receptions, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, almost 13 yards per reception. This guy is a little gadget guy, man. They put him all over the field, and they get him the ball. And that's one of the main reasons why they're 5-0. And he's been working with Brady Cook, who's been doing well. So love it. And hopefully they can keep on moving, man. But those are our game balls for the last 2 weeks. Definitely let us know who you guys feel are your game balls. We're about to get out of here. But before we do, just going to shoot it to Alex. Any games? I mean, we know the Georgia game was close last week. We saw the Colorado game. Any other games that last week kind of caught your eye, maybe that we saw or didn't see?
I mean, for me, the big one that I kept my eye on in that early window, other than obviously USC Colorado, was that Northwestern Penn State game. That was 10-10 at the half. That was one where, and you even brought it up talking about how, like, should Penn State be scared of Northwestern? And my response was, no, because they won't be physical enough. Northwestern brought it early. They punched Penn State in the mouth right off the bat, forcing that fumble on the kick return. They only got the field goal with it, but they were in Penn State's grill early. It took Penn State a full half of football to figure out, hey, okay, like, let's wake up and actually play here. And eventually they took over 141-13. But then that next slate of games, obviously I watched my Michigan game, but then it was keeping eyes on Georgia, Auburn, Kansas, Texas, obviously LSU, Ole Miss. I was just kind of keeping an eye on those bigger games, and then just kind of checking the scores for the rest of them. Oh yeah.
And I was doing that same. I saw that Kansas game. I was trying to watch that one, but then once I saw that, kind of distancing itself, I was like, oh my goodness. Definitely, like you caught the LSU Ole Miss game, man. Judkins, Jackson Dart, that offense, man. When they're clicking, they are absolutely on. Who else? Who else did I take a look at? Because we were talking about a bunch of these. Notre Dame, Duke, right? Yeah. Wanted to see that one, man. And hey, Notre Dame got out 13-0 early, and then all of a sudden Duke comes roaring back. Is there any updates on Riley Leonard? The ankle injury looked really bad, but it wasn't an ACL though, right?
No, it was an ankle injury. So we got lucky there overall. I'll see if there's anything from the last, since I sent that post out yesterday to you guys, but all we've seen is it's not expected to be season ending. I'll see if there's more
Colin said
updates as of now. Man, if that's the case, they got so lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Man. Also, I wanna throw out there, Sam Hartman was so freaking classy at the end of that game. Everyone else from that Notre Dame team went into the locker room. They're interviewing Sam Hartman, and all he's doing, you can see the entire time, he's looking up and over at the tent, trying to make sure he gets to go see Riley Leonard, make sure he's okay before they go and he goes. Yeah. And he cuts the interview short because he's like, I gotta go check how he's doing. Goes over, make sure he's good before he goes into the locker room. That was I gained so much respect for Sam Hartman, a guy I already had a ton of respect for. Very classy move by him.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's the extra part that he brings to the table. Is that he's a good guy. He's a good man. He's older, obviously, but he's proven that. And I think that's going to help that team because, I mean, you have to have that to bring it back after they had the game they had against Ohio State where you lose it on the last play, the very last play of the game, and then to come to an upstart and play an upstart Duke. You got game day is over there. You know, all the eyes are on you. You got it. You have to pull your team together, and that character that he's showing, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yep.
So hey, here we go. Here we go. The next week is upon us. Week 6 is here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're not blinking because this season is going by very quickly.
And tonight is the only night for the next month-ish without either college or NFL football.
Let's go!
So, buckle up. There's going to be football every night for you to watch. So take it all in as much as you're able to handle.
Let's go. This is my Christmas. This is the most beautiful time of the year.
Absolutely.
Yo, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. Definitely want to let you know right after here, actually starting right now, Let's Talk Football. The round table is starting. Nicholas Rosario.
I cannot wait for that, for them to talk their game. Oh, my God.
Yeah, tune in because Nicholas Rosario and Delilah Bears fans. Tina is
on the other side, yeah.
And that was a game to see. So definitely tune into that. Anthony, the SEC guy, is also on there as well. So you will enjoy that. For me, Sean Spencer, my guy. Restoring the Roar.
Tomorrow night, yep.
Okay, perfect. Restoring the Roar tomorrow night. Watching the Football Weekly tomorrow night. Stay tuned this Saturday. Our guy, Alex Schomburg, will be back with us previewing all of college football Saturday and seeing what's going on. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back with you next time. Peace, people.
College Football Update with your host,